Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Gathering hosted by SRS Paranormal. I'm glad to be back. Last week, unfortunately, I was not able to be here. I had an injury. I'm about 75% back to normal, so if I get up and walk around the room, don't be alarmed. It's just because I'm reeling from a little bit of a back injury. But tonight is going to be a fantastic show. We have a very, very special guest today. We have Mr. Dan Klaes. You guys know him. He has Hinsdale House. He's affiliated with Wildwood Sanatorium. He's an author. He's on the Ghost Finders TV show, which I believe is on Amazon Prime. He's been in several other things, and he's a pretty well-known guy in the paranormal. So we're honored to have you with us here tonight, Daniel. So
honored to be here.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell everybody a little about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just I'm just a normal guy, just like you all. I mean, interested in the paranormal for a long time. I grew up in a house with things happening in it, and really sparked my interest. And I've just been following my passion ever since. Going on investigations, searching for the unknown. Ended up coming across the Hinsdale House, and they were tearing it down, and I had such an emotional connection with the place when I investigated there, and ended up buying it. We can go into that in a little while, but it was ready to be torn down. Trust me, it was in really bad shape, and we've been fixing it up ever since, keeping it open for paranormal investigating, and we've been really pushing the boundaries, trying to figure out what's making that place click, the land and the property, and in the meantime, I wrote a book and been going around talking about the Hinsdale House to conventions, and had a couple spots on some TV shows. Everything just happens. You don't ask for it. It just I think when you do things right in your life, and you try to be positive, and just good things happen, and in turn you try to be good to other people too. So it's just been fun. Been having fun with it. And I think the funnest thing for me is meeting new people, investigating with new people, going to new locations, and just really collaborating and working together.
Right.
Go ahead, Al. Sorry.
So you actually went there on like a paranormal investigation, and did you ask if it was for sale, or was the owner selling it, or you said they were tearing it down, but.
Yeah, the guy that owned it was actually an investigator from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and it was hard for him to manage it. I mean, he had a team locally and a group of people that were managing the property, right. But because the money was being funneled to Canada, the team's hands were tied, and they weren't really able to keep it up and do the things that they really needed to do to make the location stable and secure. So he ended up losing the mortgage on it. And once he lost that mortgage, it went back to the bank. And because the house was in such decrepit shape, the bank was going to tear it down. And I mean, they had the ductwork ripped out of it, all the electrical. It was ready to go. And when I went down and met with them, it was they didn't believe me that I really wanted to have the house on the property. They're like, "You want the property, right?" I'm like, "No, I want the with the house on it." And right. That was. Yeah, I mean, I just went there investigating it, and just with my team and stuff, and started going there and researching the place. And
yeah, well, I for one, I can't speak for the rest of my team, but I for one, I'm glad you saved it, because I absolutely love the place.
Oh, that's good. A lot of people, that come there feel like they have special attachment to the place, or they feel like they get a connection with it, and that's what I think that helps to draw people in. It's not even a matter of me selling it to people. Yeah. People come there, have their own experiences, and then they want to come back. So that's good for the location, and the research aspect of it.
Real quick, guys, I'm trying to keep the kind of mics kind of muted if somebody's not talking, only because I think that might help the feedback issue. Had a couple of people just message me saying that there's getting a really strong echo. So I just think, like, kind of if you're in a Zoom meeting, sometimes if you close off your microphones, if you're not speaking, I'd say let Daniel leave his open, and then those of us, since there's so many of us, we can kind of mute us when we're not talking. That way we can keep that feedback to a minimum. But no, Daniel, that's amazing how you actually came into the Hinsdale property itself. So what was like your first real paranormal experience? What was that moment that you knew this is something that I want to really get into, or really was that trigger moment for you?
Well, I mean, I grew up in a location in a house that I ended up buying later in life for my parents. But growing up, I always had weird things happening. Nobody would be home. There'd be like crayon drawings on the ceiling when we'd come home. My sister's stuffed animals would be moved. And it's just that creep factor. One time my parents were camping with my sisters, and I was staying over at my buddy's house, and we went home to get my GI Joe guys, and we heard singing in the house. So we heard like actual physical singing coming from the upstairs, and just weird things like that happen. The first time I feel like it was like it was what I was searching for, and it actually happened. I was at like this theater, and there was my team was out on the stage, and we had K2 meters on the left and the center and the front, and we were out in the recreating like sending the actors out to bow, and we're getting good evidence with that. And I just wanted to, you just want to have that personal experience, and I told my co-founder, I'm like, listen, I'm going to go sit in the mezzanine on my own, because we had like a laser grid and we had cameras running up there, and I just wanted to sit and just let it all in, and I saw this, and I take a deep breath, because it was scary for me, the first time that I ever saw something, I think now I'd go run at it and say, what are you doing? But now the first time it ever happened, I think I took a deep breath and I stopped breathing for a while, because I was so scared, because this shadow figure actually protruded out of the wall. There was a organ there, and it glided in this in the laser grid that was up, and the laser light was not going through it. So there had to be some type of mass to it, because the laser lights weren't going through it, and it stopped right in front of me. And I just remember looking, and then it glided into the projection room, and the hair on my arms was straight up, and I ran down the stairs out into the middle of the street like a big baby, and I had to collect my thoughts. And we ended up getting a picture of it too. I told the guy that does the photography in my group, I'm like, go plaster that balcony, and we ended up catching a picture of it. And it looked like this creep factor, like you could make this face out. And after that, I was just hooked, like I just hook, line, and sinker all in. I need this to happen to me again. And just kept going,
That's right. It's those experiences that keep us coming back for more, right? Every time we have something happen or something new, it just ignites that fire and that passion to want to keep pressing forward. But let's talk a little bit, since we've been to Hinsdale. I think it'd be a good time to start talking about our personal experiences there. So
Yeah.
since my mic is open, I'll start off. I think for me, in my almost 15 years now in the paranormal, having done a lot of investigations, been fortunate enough to go all over the country, do lots of residential work. I really thought I was prepared for just about, anything. But I kind of think I let my guard down and I let my shielding down. And I think that's what gave me the wild ride I had at Hinsdale. To this day, it is still an investigation that details elude me. And I'm kind of curious to see what the team, those that were there, Rhonda, Nikita in the bottom, Kevin, Al, they were with me, and they had experiences that trek right along with that. It was incredible. It's a very active location. There's no doubt. And what the first thing that happened to me that sticks out with me the most was a major personality shift. I had heard about that phenomena occurring, that sometimes people will be influenced and have a personality shift. But again, all those investigations and all that experience leading up to that, I had never experienced that. I had emotional moments where you get affected by the energy or the thought of the memory of what's happening, but never an actual personality shift. And I did things that I normally don't, which is full on provocation. So that's something I'm not knocking that. That's a skill that some people use, but it's not what I use. But my guys will tell you, and gals will tell you, that I wasn't me. It was wild. Al, who had dreamed and wanted to go to that place for so long, had read the Dandy's book, had read your book, had read everything he could find about the Hinsdale House, couldn't be more distracted and enthused while we were there at points than I think I'd ever seen. So that was definitely the energy that influenced us. So I'll open with that, and then I'll just have my people jump in and talk about their experiences, and then we'll see, Daniel, kind of what you think based on what you've heard from other people going there and your own personal experiences.
Sure, absolutely.
Whoever wants to jump in there next.
Rhonda or Kevin, go ahead. I'll go last. Let you guys have a chance to talk.
Well, we've got the baby, so we'll go first because we may have to jump off here at any time. So it was really crazy for us too. We're both obviously psychic, and we are. Well, I thought we were prepared to, because we ground and we center before we do anything as far as reading. But we were at that house, it was different. And then as the night progressed, I know you said, everybody said I kept going outside. I don't remember that. I remember 2 trips outside, but I said they couldn't keep me in the house. And then, of course, Nikita and I saw, no idea what we were looking at until we came back in. But
yeah, at one point, me and Matt went outside, and it was just to get a drink, and it was just completely darker than dark out there, and we just went right back inside. It just didn't seem right at all.
it was definitely different.
Are you guys from the city?
No,
No.
we live in the country.
So you're used to that darkness.
Darker than black and dark, yeah. But it was eerily dark.
Definitely. I felt that way before too, because you feel like something's like watching you. And I mean, we can, after everybody speaks, we can kind of talk about some of the stuff that other people have felt and other people have experienced as well, in correlation to what you guys are feeling and what you've experienced there. Because I've been keeping records. You guys wrote in the book as well. Everybody writes in the book of experiences they've had in the past 5 years that I've owned the place. So it's, I'm keeping records of everybody's experiences and just being able to pinpoint like where things are happening and where people are having experiences, if something actually correlates with the history that we have, or maybe it opens a new door,
Right. But it was definitely different.
Yeah. I would actually like to go back and see what we wrote, because, I think there's a lot of, like Matt was alluding to, there's a lot of, just the investigation seemed to go by very quick. And thinking back on it now, yes, Matt was very aggressive and Al was distracted. But we all, I think the thing that sticks in my mind now, thinking back on it, is the experience, the way the outside made me feel, like up in the woods. The way once it got dark, I completely felt like a feeling I'd never felt before. It was like some sort of such fear, isolation. Like I felt like there was nobody around and miles, and there really is. It doesn't seem like there's any civilization right there near it, but it just felt so isolated and dark there. While once the sun went down, it was definitely a different feel than I've felt at other locations. You kind of feel like, well, you could walk outside and get away from it if you need to at some locations. Well, there wasn't walking away from it. It was so all encompassing around you. You just couldn't get away from it. So I think that was I have these blips of memories and being up in the woods and kind of being freaked out a little bit. And this was in daylight, this was during the daylight hours. I don't think any of us went up in the woods at night, because didn't it start raining on us at some point? I thought so. And I just remember Rhonda and I thought it was Nikita. Maybe it was Matt being outside and running back in, like startled. Something that happened, and so it seems like the whole environment around the house, not just the house, is what creeps back in my memories now, thinking back about it. And so it was definitely a different experience for me too, being there and now trying to just have some sort of memory, piece together memories of that night. It's scattered, but I have more memories of the outside almost than I have on the inside. So.
And that happens.
I was going to say real quick to piggyback on what Kevin was saying. That location, I've never been anywhere that the outside, like they were saying at night, was you wanted to go back inside because the outside felt it felt worse. Like Kevin was saying, you couldn't get away from that heaviness. And we're not the kind of team that buys into myths or folklores or whatever. We do our own historical research and background on places with our actual degreed historian. We're a very experienced team. We spend a lot of time in this field doing this. We've encountered some dark things, been on a lot of cases. Never in my personal experience have I felt like I've been in the presence of something demonic. Dark, yes. Negative, yes. Demonic, no. Not in my personal experience, but I have to say, in all the places I've been, this includes places like, Brushy Mountain Penitentiary, big places where there is dark energy, Hales Bar Dam. Nothing compares to that feeling I had at Hinsdale. The feeling I had at Hinsdale was something I will always take away from there and remember. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, so please don't take that in a bad way. I'm just trying to put into perspective for the viewers and for yourself from our side of how we felt about the experience there. I really am curious if I'll be able to make myself go back. Rhonda and I have talked at length about whether or not we'll go back when the team does, and that's an unusual thing for me to say because I'm not one that shies away from experiences or locations ever. So that should say a lot about the experience. And I think the biggest thing is that loss of time and that personality shift. It was something that stuck with me for a while, for sure. Al, you want to jump in with yours real quick?
Sure. I'll just echo what the other guys have said. To me, like Matt said, I researched the place. I watched, I'd seen it on Paranormal Lockdown with Nick Groff and Katrina. I read the Dandy book. I read a lot about you. It was the top place on my bucket list to go. And then, like they said, when we got there, I was playing on my phone. I was kind of disengaged from the investigation. There was times I got snappy with Matt. We've known each other for 26 years. Me and Kevin's known each other since high school. We were all just kind of snippy with each other. And that is one location I'll have to say the outside to me was scarier than the inside. But, in Clara Dandy's book, she talked about a lot about vehicles breaking down. Well, fortunately, I got in the car and it started because that was my first worry. But from that night to driving all the way across the state of New York to Boston, my brakes went out. I had to have new rotors and new brake pads when we got to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was the goat's fault, right?
Is that part of the?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? You think
Now,
that
you
would
ended up in a ditch unexpectedly, maybe something like that, but you didn't do your brakes before you went to New York. Can't blame
That's
it.
what I told him. You know what that was, Daniel? That was poor pre-trip inspection. That's
There you go.
right. I was told that. So
Something strange though. We got pulled over though, and I don't even remember that. So that's very odd to me. I don't remember us getting pulled over after that investigation by the police. It's like a blur. Yeah. Like after we left, I'm totally blurred out.
Did you tell them that you were at the house?
We left it like
that's usually a free ticket.
We left about 4:00 in the morning. Yeah, well, we did tell him we were at the house actually, and he guys took a look with his flashlight, looked in the car, looked at all of us. We must have looked like we were, I don't know, creeped out or something. Or he just said, "Well, guys, be careful and have a nice night," and told us to go on. But there was frogs too. I remember the frogs. Remember the frogs?
Yeah.
There
Oh
were
yeah.
frogs all over the road. I had never seen so many frogs. Like I said, we live in the country here to a degree, and I had never seen that many frogs. We were like swerving to try not to hit these frogs. It was a wild experience. It was like a plague of frogs on top of the weird stuff that happened to us at Hinsdale.
Just
But
like a horror movie just starting, right? Like all
the
of a sudden,
quintessential horror film.
filled with frogs.
Yeah,
When it rains
absolutely.
out, sometimes that happens, especially during breeding season. You know, the frogs, just thousands and thousands of frogs. Hi, Kelly.
But
So-
what I wanted to touch on real quick too, Dan, before we kind of get your take on that. I think we've always felt that your intentions when you go into a location has a lot to do with the experience you have and your preparation, of course. So I think for us, letting our guard down was what happened to us. I don't think it had anything to do with your location per se or anything like that. I think it was really just we didn't do what we should have, our due diligence the way we should have. And it's a lesson learned thing. No matter how experienced you are or no matter how much you think you know, you always got to go back to those basics. And I think that was the takeaway, at least for me as an individual on that case. But yeah, so that's just a kind of a sample of some of the experiences we had. We can talk a little bit more about it as we go and bring up some of the other experiences. I will say this on Al's part, though. We were actually conducting a seance in the main room when we look over and Al breaks the circle and he's literally got his phone out and like he's flipping Facebook, which is crazy because you don't have like really good connection there anyway. I don't know what he was doing, but he was scrolling through his phone and just like kicked back on the couch. And if you knew Al and knew the case manager that he is and the investigator that he is, he's the guy you drag away at the end of the night. Like, look, dude, the sun's coming up. We got to go home. Enough's enough. Not that night. So that's just another perspective for you. But yeah, so Daniel, what do you think? What's your thoughts on some of that stuff that we were talking about happening there?
Well, I mean, it's not that I haven't heard any of it before. Other teams have experienced similar situations, including what you've experienced, Matthew, to the point where we've actually had to pull him out of the house and we had to have his wife take him home, and he actually stayed away for a while because we couldn't really explain the whole change in his demeanor. I think it's really important. Actually, the Reeps, if you're familiar with Bill Reep, he also had a similar experience there when he was there.
Wow.
And he's not one to let his guard down either. And that's why it's so important, like you said, the basics. That's why I usually tend to screen the teams before they come in, because I don't want anybody going in not grounding themselves or being aware of what could possibly happen if you let your guard down, because it does seem like it can be suppressive at times if you let it, and you have to be able to take control of that situation and take yourself out of that situation for a little while before you try to put yourself back in it. But if you're continuously allowing yourself to be suppressed, things like what you're saying could possibly happen, with the mind altering, with you, Al, just, breaking a seance circle. I mean, that doesn't, when would you ever do that? Not to do that. So things like that can happen. Now, as far as the outside of the house goes, so are you guys familiar with Jeff Fent? He's a researcher out of Columbus. Check him out. He's an amazing researcher out of Columbus, Ohio. He's an amazing woodworker. So he makes spirit boxes out of reclaimed wood from haunted locations and hoping to give the location a voice. So he's actually built me a box from Hinsdale, and he's built boxes from locations that have burnt down, like the Emmett House in Ohio, and he's got boxes, one for Wildwood, but he's just amazing. Each box is its own work of art. But he was up there, and he's very drawn to the woods, and he's like, Dan, I'm going to do some experiments out in the woods. And in Clara's book, how she talks about these creatures, right, that they couldn't explain what they are. Now he's doing experiments with different light spectrums, and he's just taking pictures with his camera. He's using red light, and up in the tree he captured this creature, And I mean, I couldn't pinpoint it, of any creatures that could possibly be indicative to that area. I didn't even know what the heck it was, quite honestly. It looked kind of like a monkey with a skinny body with these long fingers and a long tail, and it was 10 foot up in the tree. Like a monkey, maybe a cow face, I don't know, like mixed together. And I'm taking this picture, I'm showing it to like Nick Groff, I'm showing it to anybody that I could think of, saying any explanation as to what this is. And the only time I got an explanation was from Chris Sutton. He's a shaman practitioner in St. Louis. And he said right away, he said, that's a puckwudgie. I'm like, oh, what? Now I'm like, so I started researching that, and it makes sense because they're protectors of Indian burial grounds, so and there's definitely that elements at the house because you have the Native American burial mounds on the neighboring property. We have found arrowheads. Now when we redid the septic system for the bathroom and dug up the ground, we have artifacts that we found. I mean, look where the house is located on the top of that hill. So you have definitely that Native element. People have captured pictures of a Native American woman and a full chief in the headdress outside in the driveway. So I don't know. You always get that feeling that something's watching you when you go up in those woods, or there's something around you.
And you just hit on something very interesting because, like I said, we did our, we had looked at the historical research that was out there, and then of course we did our own, and that's just because we believe in doing due diligence in everything, and not just taking things at face value, or not just assuming, because I think that where you can go, this is a personal viewpoint, but I think you could get yourself in trouble if you look only at the history and you assume that's who you're communicating with, or you assume that's what the haunting is related to. You have to go much deeper than that, and that's always been our philosophy. But we kind of felt, our takeaway, myself, Rhonda, the team, we felt that an elemental might be the cause of this. It might truly be one of those rare elemental hauntings where that's part of what's happening there is definitely elemental based. So to hear you talk about that, I mean, we knew about, of course, the Native American history and all that, but when you talk about taking pictures of the creature and things that I had not heard before tonight.
Well, because that happened after you came. We captured it after you were there in May. It happened in June when we got the picture.
Okay. So, and that again tracks along in my mind with the crypto and the elemental type stuff, which is a different spectrum in our world. But that's fascinating. So it's kind of, I guess, reassuring for us, because that thought was like, man, is this one of these cases where, you really do have an elemental as part of what's going on here? Because again, in our experience, we haven't had a lot of those, but I definitely feel you have one there.
I've had an inside the house. So I've had that feeling before, but it's never really gotten to the point where I wasn't able to, I don't feel like it's affected me in a way. I knew getting into this location, it was going to be a situation where I couldn't allow the location to kind of overtake everything that I do in my life. And in the past, that's what it was doing with these families and how people that live there. So that's why I had to put together a really good team of people. Like you guys met Billy, checked you in. And there's Michelle and there's Tiffany and there's a whole bunch of people that are just as knowledgeable as I am about the location that will take teams in and help. We rotate the duties at the location because it doesn't become as overtaking, as far as your mentality goes. Like there's so many times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I could just go down to the house and investigate, like I'm only an hour and a half away, and I have the keys. Hey, but I have to I set it up, and I spread things out and I do what I have to do when I have to do it, and I'm there a lot. So, you guys got to take every step as you go. So.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right about what we was talking about as far as that influence thing, and I think that I'm glad we're talking about that tonight, not just because of your location, but just in general, because I think that's something that people dismiss. I think they don't understand that, or don't believe that these things can absolutely influence us in a larger, broader sense than we think. And again, we're not a team that typically lets our guard down or doesn't prepare. I mean, there's sometimes that, me personally being, coming into a little bit of my own ability on the sensitive mediumship side, I'll prepare for a week before I go in someplace sometimes. You need to do that much energy work in order to be able to be in the environment if I know we're going to be in a place that's going to be difficult. So again, it's just interesting to hear that other people had similar things, because you have an experience like that and you start thinking, man, have I lost my mind because I've never experienced that before, and you start second guessing those experiences. So I'm glad to hear that people have had the same type of
We've been really working on that too, as far as the energy at the house, any type of suppressive or negative energy that people would have been feeling. We've been really working on, as far as like the Native Americans goes, offering like offerings of peace and having ceremonies and things like that, and giving instead of taking. So everything that we do, we're giving and trying to show that we mean peace in all of our efforts to communicate with any energies that want to communicate with us, so they have a voice.
Absolutely. And that's another mistake that we made that we normally don't. We always, like when we did for example, the Hales Bar Dam, we gave an offering of tobacco. We burnt sweetgrass. We actually made a smudge stick that was, based on Indian beliefs, the Cherokee beliefs. And we actually asked for blessing to safely communicate with what was there. And people have had negative experience there. We had great experiences there. That's the kind of things that we normally do also, in addition to our own personal protection. For whatever reason, we didn't do any of that when we went there. And to this day, I don't know why we didn't do what we were supposed to do. And I kick myself for like, well, you dummy. Of course, you invited trouble by not doing what you're supposed to do.
I have it now, so like when you walk in the door, there's a table, and then there's tobacco, and it says 4 offerings. So I kind of I meet it out for everybody. So there's smudge sticks, there's everything like right in a row for
fantastic.
So you hopefully don't forget,
Fantastic. But again, it was a great location, and I hope I can get myself in the mindset to do it again. I know the team wants to, so I'm sure we'll contact you about trying to do it again, and hopefully you'll let us come up there and try it again, and we'll do the right thing this time. But we did spend 2 days at Wildwood, so I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about Wildwood. That's a neat place. I really wish that we had a lot more. I mean, we had some good communication. We had some good stuff happen. We didn't get as much of it documented, because you know how it is. Sometimes things just don't translate on audio or video, and it's the personal experiences to take away sometimes a lot more than the hardcore evidence, if you will, or you have to throw it out because you can't isolate what's contaminated or not. We did it with another group, Paranormal Brew. We actually stayed there for 2 full days. Hey, Secret James. We actually slept there that night. Well, I did not sleep the first night because there was so much stuff happening. These guys, Kevin and Al, slept like babies, but I didn't. But great location. The doll room creeps me out because I've got a thing with dolls. It seems like they're everywhere I go, and I hate them. But you got a whole room full of them there, and that was kind of creepy. But great location. Definitely want to go back and check it out again. It's got a cool history too. So, I mean, if you want to talk a little bit about it, since there may be some people that want to try to book it, why don't you talk a little bit about its history and your experiences with it?
So the Wildwood Sanitarium became available in Salamanca, New York. My friend Lori Ann Wagatha owns this location. She had known me through my paranormal group in Buffalo called the Greater West New York Paranormal Society. She had come to a lot of our events and was really interested in what we were doing. And she also participated in trying to help rehabilitate Hinsdale House. She was there as a volunteer, painting and putting on screens, and just really is an amazing friend, honestly. And she was at my birthday party, and she said, I want to talk to you. Her and her husband Dale, and she pulled me to the side and she said, Dan, I'm drawn to this sanitarium. It's basically in its last stages. I mean, you guys saw, you came here, there was leaky roofs, couple leaky rooms, and not in the best shape. And something told her to take every cent that she had in the bank and buy this place, and I basically committed to helping her, as far as helping the promotion of the location, getting it out there. We made flyers, and every event that I was at, people were asking me about Hinsdale. Well, here's the Wildwood too, like you guys when you called, I tried to package them together so people could come here and experience this location as well. The reason I did that, you have to you have to have a reason to want to do something. And coming here, it was a situation where I experienced I was hearing what you were saying, like poltergeist things, hands flying off the counters, and all this stuff. I'm like, well, if I'm gonna promote this place and ask Nick to put it on Paranormal Lockdown, I said I need to come there and experience something. So I came here and started investigating, and I was in that doll room that you're speaking of, and I was doing a geoblock session, and we had REM pods on the stairs, and we had a REM pod in the dining room area, and I had seen the shadow, and it really freaked me out, this one, because it felt like there were two like white eyes on it.
Oh wow!
And it felt like it was moving, and just didn't pay attention to me being there. I said hello, hello, didn't pay attention to me. It started going up the stairs, and we followed it up the stairs, and what it looked like to me, what it was doing was it was checking in the rooms, and then looked in another room, and then it just dissipated down the hall. It was gone, and I was like, holy crapola. But I didn't say crap. And I'm like, that was amazing. That was like an amazing personal experience. I experienced it. I had 3 people here with me that actually saw the same damn thing that I saw. And I said, okay, Lori, I think we got something here. It may be residual. It may be, because to me, it felt more like calm. It didn't make me scared. It felt like it was more nurturing of an energy. And when you go to other sanitariums, you always freak out about patients, like those patients that may have been electrocuted, or they tried things on it that didn't work out. And that happened in a smaller capacity in this location. But a lot of what people get here it seems like the doctors and the nurses, Dr. Henderson and the nurses that worked here, it seems like they may still be on shift. And it's pretty neat. When Nick came here to film Paranormal Lockdown, I remember coming up to meet him here, and they were filming the intro on the steps here with Lori and her daughter. And they had just set up some basic things in the house. And I don't know if you guys saw that episode.
Yeah.
Where that mirror just come crashing down.
Right.
I'm like, that's crazy, because that mirror was one of those mirrors that had like those little slits in it, and you could take it and go like this, and it's not going to move off that wall. Something had to lift it up like this and drop it.
Wow.
So I mean, it was we've had things like that happening here the whole time that we're here, and then Lori's kind of doing the same thing. She's writing, having people write in the book of experiences that they have here, and you're talking anywhere from poltergeist to residual to there's a little kid that they're getting now that I've never experienced a child here, but a lot of people that have come here have experienced a child. I think his name's Tommy. They call him Tommy. So
we had 2 experiences that I think were definitely related to a child. One reason I feel that is because Rhonda, our psychic, I hate that she had to go. She had a computer issue, so she had to jump off. She messaged me a minute ago, but she was picking up on a child. She wasn't too short. It was a real shy child. But at one point when I was sleeping trying to sleep that first night, it felt like a kid's hand pulled on my foot. Well, I jumped up and sat up, and I was like, because Al was sleeping on a cot just past me, and I was like, dude, why are you grabbing my foot? And he's like, what? I said, why are you grabbing my foot? So he wakes up because he was asleep. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, dude, you just grabbed my foot. He goes, go back to sleep. No, I didn't. Well, that was it. So of course I didn't sleep then after that, because I'm like, okay, now what's going on? Part of me wanted to jump up and investigate, and the other part of me wanted to kind of lay there and see what happened. But the next morning, we're all sitting around at breakfast, and Al, why don't you tell them what we heard on the floor above us? With everybody was downstairs,
like a kid running. It was like little bitty footsteps running across the second level.
Yeah, that's where they catch them too. That back room off the stairs. Now we've captured on camera, like we have camera here, and we'll like sometimes run it live for people to watch when there's no investigators here. And we've captured things moving in that room on their own, in that little room in the back corner. But it's Tommy's room, so it definitely has that appeal to it as well as far as children. I mean, it was a holistics hospital and tuberculosis clinic, so some nasty things happened here, and I know it was all in good. Back then they didn't have the science behind what they were doing,
right? And
they were just trying to make people feel better, and
sometimes
they tried
making
anything,
it worse. Yeah.
But tried anything they could to. I think the intentions were good, but probably didn't help many people.
We had another group that we had done that we teamed up with called Paranormal Brew. They do a weekly show too as well. And our good friend Taryn, who's part of that group, she was down, and we were all doing a big session down in the basement where the tub is. And Taryn was in the tub. We had her in Estes. Well, what was really cool with that, not only did she start giving relevant answers to the questions that we were asking, but she also started, her body language started changing, and she started, really, it was really like she was channeling something. So it was kind of cool. It was a female. And one of the experiences that both of the psychics, one psychic that was there named Beth O'Brien, and the other one is ours, Rhonda. They both were talking about picking up on this nurse being down there and this nurse treating people down there. And they were talking about, seeing this nurse and this nurse still being there, but they almost felt like she was sort of residual because she was oblivious to their interactions. But then there was another nurse that Rhonda encountered on the second floor earlier when we were doing some isolation experiments, that was, she felt like she could interact with. So have you had people have interactions with spirits of nurses?
Yeah, we're just talking about my personal experiences, but the other people have for sure, where they've actually been able, like you said, using the Estes method. There's teams that have been here that have tried different things with different energies, trying to communicate, and they've gotten some amazing responses. Now, I've gotten good like EVPs here, things like that, but more, I've gotten a male in what sounds like maybe a female child to me, but you don't know for sure 100% what you're getting, but sure. I've had good responses, like physical responses as well, so you can tell it's intelligent haunting, but I do feel there's a lot of residual here as well.
Have you had anybody say anything about hearing a gunshot? Because we heard a gunshot during our seance
at Wildwood.
Yeah,
but let's put that into context, Al. It wasn't an audible loud gunshot. We were using a psychic trumpet. Are you familiar with a psychic trumpet at all, Daniel?
No.
Okay, so it's an old Victorian era method, and the way it's designed is if there is disembodied voices, or if there are voices that would be in that EVP range, the way that it works, it's sort of like a reverse. Think of like a phonograph, how it has the big cone. Well, this is kind of reverse, and it amplifies those lower frequency sounds. It's a Victorian era piece of equipment, and we were using that, and we had that set up, and we were doing a seance at the seance table on the second floor. My team does a lot of stuff where we blend modern technology and Victorian era method seances, dowsing rods, pendulums, Ouija boards. We combine it with modern tech, and we cross validate, and then we use our psychics to help guide sessions and that sort of thing. So it's a little different flavor sometimes, with another layer in how we investigate.
Oh, I like that, actually.
We do the traditional stuff too, but we kind of blend things. So anyhow, we were doing that type of an experiment with the people from Paranormal Brew. They were, all about trying some new stuff too. So we took some of their equipment that we didn't have. We took some of the Victorian equipment that we had, plus some of our modern tech, and we were doing a seance. Well, we were talking about any spirits that were here, if there had been, and one of the psychics was talking about a suicide or feeling like there could have been a suicide. And we heard a gunshot very faintly. It was like a pop sound, and we all kind of paused, and I believe it was Al said, "Was that a gunshot?" I said, it kind of sounded like it. So then we found out, and I'm not saying that this is what it was, but then we found out later that night that there had been a guy that possibly had shot himself on the second floor. So I always wondered if that was a residual sound, since we were talking about it, or if that's who the psychics were connecting with, and that's why we heard that gunshot. So it wasn't like a loud, like it would have been outside or even something in the room. It was very faint, and it was very low, and it was inside that, that circle. So to piggyback on what Al was saying.
Oh,
so it was an interesting experience.
Really interesting, yeah. Pretty neat. So,
Kevin, anything you want to add about Wildwood or the experiences you had there?
Well, I think the room that probably bothered me the most, I'm kind of the same way with Matt. I do not like dolls at all, so it was hard for me to stay in that room and even walk by it. Like I wanted to avoid it the whole time and not really go in there. But we ended up going in there and doing some spirit box sessions, and got some interesting things that happened in there. And then another thing that stands out, it was when we were in the basement with Taryn doing the tub, there was also a really audible moan there that we picked up in
I've
the
heard that
basement.
before.
Yeah, and we all, I don't think we heard it at the time, but we played it back, and it was very audible. It was it was a groan, So that was interesting, and it's just a really neat house, place to go and experience. And I kind of wanted to ask you too, while we're talking, I'm sure being an owner of these places, have you had people come in that really probably, I'm not saying we're vulnerable, I'm saying maybe did something that wasn't right there, or caused you to be concerned that, not necessarily like doing conjuring, but doing things that you wouldn't want done at your places you own?
Well, I think
For
part of owning a location is being able to kind of feel out that type of stuff. So if I have college students calling me that have never done an investigation before, don't have a team name, just said they are using an app on their phone or something, I might be a little bit more weary of allowing them to come to the location without having somebody there. So in that being said, I have like levels, like of where I will let somebody go in, and do their thing, that I kind of like a respect thing. So if you've never done an investigation, you're not getting my keys. You're not, the Hinsdale House is not going to be your first place that you're going to go do that, So I will come in and facilitate an investigation with you. I'll be there for the night, or I will have one of my team members that is willing to come in and help facilitate the investigation with them to make sure that they're not going over any type of boundaries that they shouldn't. They should be taking precautions with what they're doing and hopefully learning something. So we have all different levels of different investigations that we offer to people and teams and groups, and we try to stagger them out, so it's not a situation where somebody's putting themselves in a bad place, So with you guys, I can take a quick click on your team and say, okay, they're legit. They got their own logo, blah blah blah. Look at all the locations they've been to. I can trust that they're going to be respectful, because I'll tell you what, 99% of the people that I've come across that care about what they're doing in the paranormal field aren't going in to disrespect a location or steal things from a location or ruin a place. They're there because they're in it for the research, the history, and the help. And that's usually what it's all about. So that's kind of how we roll. And I know Lori does the same thing with when we have people come here as well. So I have a question for you, Kevin.
Sure.
If you were to have a choice, what type of Doritos would you have?
Just I'm
Well
very
played, Daniel.
traditional there. I'm going to take the my favorite flavor though is this flavor that's only, I've seen it come back out recently. It's a taco flavor, which is like, it reminds me of the Doritos back when I was a kid.
The bag is kind of retro too, right? It kind of looks
they're kind of a retro bag, and I don't know, it's just something. But
interesting.
Well, now we got to
Go
explain.
ahead. Yeah, I was going to go for it out.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Kevin's like a snacker. I mean, when we woke up in a hotel room and there's been like Dorito bags and cookie, packages. And
I'm a night eater, so I think
the room.
possessed at night. I get this.
We thought we brought gremlins back. I think we were in Kentucky.
Sleep
weren't we?
eater.
I think we were in Kentucky. I think we were in Kentucky on one of the investigations in Kentucky when Al was talking about. And Al and I woke up. Kevin was in the shower, and we're looking around the hotel room. We're like, what is all this stuff, man? Was there a party, or we get gremlins in here? What happened? But yeah, he did. He had all kinds of snack stuff all over the place. So we call him the snacker. We give him a hard time about that. So yeah, that's where that comes from. That's what Sky was alluding to. She's going to bring him Doritos because she's heard us talk about him.
That's funny.
Being the
I
snacker.
pick up on things. I just have to do my thing.
That's awesome. But so I want to ask you a quick question, Daniel. You are on the Ghost Finders. I see that you've done some of the stuff with that on Amazon Prime. You want to talk a little bit about that and your experience with that, and this, promote anything you've got coming up. We've talked about our experiences, and I hate that we did that to you because this was really about your hour.
Show. I mean, that's cool. I mean, like I said, I like to listen to other people too, and learn about other people's experiences, and so the only way we can evolve as a community is to talk to each other, so it's all good. The Ghost Finders, they're the longest running independent paranormal show. They've been going on for 10 years, public TV in Philadelphia and over in England, and they had contacted me to do an investigation at the Hinsdale House. So of course, I okayed it. I thought it was cool that they brought in the element of a witch, actual witch, to their programming, and I thought it would be different. So I was there to do an interview, and they were very professional and very thorough with their investigation, and they cared about the locations that they were at, and just watching how they worked with the psychic, with the witch, and with the investigator. I thought it really complemented what they were doing well, because they're looking at three different aspects, kind of like what you guys do. You that's why I said I like that. I think it's cool to look at old school, new school, and maybe a psychic, to kind of look at all three aspects of everything. And then if you can cross your T's and dot your I's on all three of those, maybe you have something more compelling than you thought you had. So I had offered them Wildwood, and then I had given them, I have all these locations. I have friends that own all these locations, and I started calling them up. I'm like, you should have the Ghost Finders come. And then it got to the point where they asked me to come and guest star on a couple of them. And then the gentleman, Brad, that was on the show, was taking a different career path. And then Rob had gotten in contact with me and asked if I would want to join the cast for season 10. So I had my team, and then I was like, oh man, because joining another team, and then I didn't want to make people mad, and it was all good, everybody worked it out, and I still have my team, and they're my other team, and it's been fun. We've got to go to Winchester Mystery House, and Nick Ross produced the show, and we're doing these specials now that we're really trying to film it differently. I didn't want to just be another podcast show that we're standing in the dark and what's there, who's this, whatever, and we're really diving into the history, and we're doing witchy things, we're doing paranormal things, and we're doing psychic things on the show, and then collaborating them together on the show, and we're doing it cinematically as opposed to just filming with regular cameras. So we're using low lighting, and we're not using IR lighting, and we're doing reenactments. So if we're focusing on a story that may have occurred at the location and we're investigating, we may throw a reenactment in to just really kind of sell story that we're explaining to the folks. So it just makes it a little bit more interesting as we're there. So I just really like the whole approach to it. And so far we've released for season 10, we're doing them as specials now because we can't go out and film so much because of the COVID. But we did Winchester Mystery House, and I just think that turned out amazing. It's on VidiSpace right now, if anybody's familiar with that. And then we also released the Haldeman Mansion on October, and we're looking to hopefully release Fort Mifflin on Valentine's Day. So the ones that we did get to tape so far, and hopefully we'll be getting back into taping them soon, because it's hard because we have a whole crew with us, filming us. So it's different.
It's a lot of cast and people. And I hate to say it, I've not ever caught an episode of it, and I don't know why, because I've known it's existed. I just never have. But I'm really intrigued now after talking to you tonight, because a lot of what you're talking about is kind of what we do.
I think you would like it.
Yeah, I think so too. It definitely fits into because it's what we do. I mean, that's how we operate. We're very historically based. We often sometimes do, role playing where we actually put some of our people in period clothing and reenact things. We do some of the witchy stuff. We use psychics. We use the Victorian era methods. And I just wanted to kind of say, I really appreciate what you're talking about. You guys do with that too, because what I'm going to say here. You get another layer of that validation. You're getting not only the stuff on the meters and the EVPs and those things, but you're also and the human experience, but you're also getting the psychic experience, and you're validating the old school methods. You're getting that triple, what we call tertiary validation. And I think that really gets harder and harder for people to challenge when you have that many layers of validation. It helps definitely I think elevate the game, if you will, for us. I know when we blended all those skill sets, our investigations changed. What we were able to do, what we were able to experience, our understanding of the energy, the history, and the location itself, and really getting a feel for the nexus of what's going on, absolutely changed when we started combining all those elements. So I'm definitely going to be checking out Ghost Finders.
So if you don't have VidiSpace yet, I go to just use the promo code Decades.
Okay.
And it's 50% off for the whole year. So it's like $3 or $2 a month or something like that. And there's a ton of awesome content on there to check out. Nick has some stuff on there that you wouldn't see anywhere else. And once it's on VidiSpace, then it gets put on Amazon Prime. But it's just been taking a while to get stuff up there because of COVID.
Right.
But it's I also have a show on there that I directed myself called Behind the Shadows Decades. That's why the promo code is Decades. And it was a 2-part series that I did this summer, just really diving into alternative theories. So like when you go to these locations, a lot of the times people are always focused on what happened, like this is what happened here, and they're not looking at alternative reasons as to why maybe a haunting may be occurring, or why something might be revving up at a location. And so really being able to dive into the history, looking at alternative methods and alternative things that may have occurred back in history, and focusing on those as opposed to the actual things that people always focus on, really garnered some amazing results in a 2-part series that I did. And it's called Behind the Shadows.
That out too. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's 2-part, so it's pretty neat.
So do you got any other big ththings coming up, Daniel, that you want to talk about or announce or can announce? I'm sure you have stuff you can announce.
We have as I was telling you before the show, we're working on a documentary series called Dead Remains, based on the story of the Hinsdale House. Nick Croft's producing it, and we've been filming that over the past year. And that's going to be coming out, and it's going to really blow people's minds, because it's a situation where as a paranormal investigator, you wish you could do some of the things that I got to do in this video at every location that you go to, so like you're talking like bringing a guy that's called the Bone Finder with doing GPR on the grounds as you're investigating, and bringing forensic divers into the lake or the pond that's surrounding the area. So some of the things that we found, and it's to give, hopefully to be able to give Clara Dandy some peace of mind, because she's still, we've been in contact with her. If you're familiar with her, I know you read her book, Al, and she's in Oregon. We've gone and met with her, heard it from her own voice, and hopefully being able to give her something that's going to say, okay, this is why this happened, So that's going to be an amazing series, and that'll be coming out soon. And then, if things ever get off the ground, there's lots of good events coming up all over, that I'm scheduled to be at, but who knows with COVID, I'm super excited, because September I'm supposed to be going to England to talk about the Hinsdale House and my experience and stuff. And I hope it happens. I hope that we'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get this horrible.
You're right.
Hopefully we get this horrible pandemic behind us, and everybody get back to normal. I mean, it's been devastating to people, not just the loss of life, but the loss of incomes, the loss of jobs, the loss of hospitality industry, the food industry. It's been a nightmare, and it's a tough time. It definitely is is a challenge. But I think it's great, some of the projects you were talking about, some of the things you've done. For everybody that's watching and that sees this on repeat and different places that get shared out, we are putting, Daniel, I didn't know, I should have asked you, and I after I got hurt this week, I forgot to email you again, so I do apologize. I just put your danielklaes.com because I figured that's kind of looking at your stuff. That seemed to kind of be your hub. And
Yes,
I know your social media links and stuff are there too. So guys, make sure, and it's down in the thing too, and we're going to link everything up. I'm also going to put a link up, Daniel, to your website on our website when I next month go in there and do the stuff, if you'd like, just as another resource for you. Any people that we talk to that we really like and feel have we kind of connect with and are like-minded, we like to share their stuff as much as we can and really live the para unity, not just talk it. So, but with that being said, we've got that scrolling along the bottom there. So make sure you guys go check out his website, follow all the social media stuff, keep up with everything he's doing. He's a busy man. He does a lot in para. And if you guys get a chance to visit Hinsdale House in Wildwood, I definitely recommend it. But like we talked about, just make sure you're prepared and you're in the right frame of mind and you're serious. If you're a thrill seeker, I wouldn't recommend doing a lot of these historic places. You need to be a researcher, I think, to really appreciate these places. I'm not saying you shouldn't do them, but I think to really appreciate them. And definitely don't cut your teeth on some of the places we talked about this evening. Would you agree with that, Daniel? Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Or if you do schedule it with a seasoned person like Daniel and his team to take you through, don't just think you're going to go in there on your own, I guess.
And don't eat a bag of taco Doritos before you come and visit me either, because those noises that you're going to hear aren't coming from the ghosts.
And I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying that it's a bad place, because it's not. It's a great place. I just want people to be careful in what they do. I'm going to ask you a question real quick here on the air before we get ready to wrap this thing up. Real quick, one of the questions we always ask before we wrap a show, because we kind of like to ask things in fun. I'm going to take your question now. What if you could pick your ghost outfit? If you could say, "Hey, I'm going to come back as a ghost, and this is it. What's your ghost outfit? What is that outfit you're going to wear? That is it. It's your haunt outfit. If you could pick it."
Man. Maybe like the Invisible Man.
Oh, that's another new answer. Good one.
I don't know if that I want to be viewed. I think I want to be invisible, because you're able to freak people out even more.
So you'd be more like a poltergeist.
Yeah, I'd be the poltergeist guy. Oh, I'd have so much fun. Oh my God. Can you imagine?
Oh my God, yeah. You'd have a lot of snacks on your floor at your house, Kevin.
Although by the time I'm able to do that, somebody will probably invent something to view me. So we'll see what happens.
But that's a good one. And all the guests we've had, we've never had that answer. So that's a great one. For me, mine has evolved over the time of doing the shows. I used to say that I was going to be like the Grim Reaper, because I thought that'd be, so cliche. It's so played out, and it would just be so cool. But now I don't know. I think maybe the creepy clown. I'm on a creepy clown thing this week. So clowns is nothing that freaks me out. So either a grown haunted doll or creepy clown is where I'm at now. Just because I want to see what people do, because I want to stick with the old cliches. You guys, what's yours still? Is it still the same? Has it changed, Michelle?
Mine's kind of changed. I think like the girl with the long black hair and the white, is it from The Ring?
The Ring.
The Ring.
Yeah.
Creepy. Yeah, I want to be creepy.
Kevin, what are you going with? You're muted, Kevin.
That old creepy preacher on Poltergeist.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That guy bothered me, as a kid. I think, that's a scary. I don't know, something about that old creepy preacher man. I think it might be in Poltergeist 2. I don't know if it's in 1 or 2, but
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, just I don't know, something about him, the way he laughed and creepy laugh.
So I think the consensus is most of us want to scare people. Ain't that right, Al? What's yours?
Well, I said if I was going to come back to haunt and scare people, I'm just going to come back naked, And 3 weeks ago, we had Charlie Raymond from Kentucky Big Hunters, and that was his answer too. So,
I mean, I'm kind of in that.
Bigfoot, yeah.
You're right. Invisible.
Yeah, you're just in the cloaking device version of the naked. Which is really cool. But hey, Daniel, thank you so much for being on tonight. I'm gonna get ready to wrap show and do the outro. If you'll stick around for just a few minutes, we'll say goodbye to you off the air if that's okay.
Yeah.
That way we can kind of wrap up privately. But everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's episode. I know I was a little scatterbrained today, but I'm going to blame that on the great modern science and meds that they've got me on right now for my back. But it was a good show. Enjoyed it. Enjoyed having Daniel come on tonight and talk about all the things that he's got going on. And we got to relive Hinsdale and Wildwood again, which were two very special investigations. It was a great road trip for us. And it's one that I hope that as we've expanded the team since then, that we can get out there and experience it again. Also scrolling on the bottom, if you'll go over to our main website, we do have a documentary film project that we are in the works of doing. It's our first time embarking on that endeavor. So I'm going to make a shameless plea to ask people to please donate and help us finish funding that project. We would greatly appreciate it. And again, make sure you see Daniel Klaes's website. Go and check out his stuff. Follow him, show him some support, show him some love. Thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate your time tonight, but we are going to get ready to leave. So everybody have a great evening, and we will see you guys next week.
Thank you.